Welcome to Guelph Fight Wrestle Hut. I am Andrew Sennedra, and this is Mr. Krispy Kreme, Captain Witchfingers, and today we're going to be talking about Wrestle Kingdom 17 and how awesome it was. I thought it was a great show. In this video, we're not going to be talking about like every match because we don't want to go on too long because there's some really great matches we're going to go into depth. And we're going to try and not give away spoilers just in case you haven't watched it yet. So we'll try not to talk about the finishes, but we might have to just sort of talk about what we enjoyed most of the match. Right off the bat, though, I thought the opening match, this is excluding the pre-show, of course, but the opening match I thought was an explosive tag team match with Francisco Akira, with TJP versus Lio Rush and Yo. Interesting name, Yo.
Yo.
But yeah, they had a really explosive match right off the bat. I've seen them tag against each other before, and that was really good. And this one really had a good storyline, a lot of things going on, how they, beat up Lio Rush on the ramp and bloodied him up, sort of taking him out of the match, sort of giving TJP or Catch 2-2 and TJP and Akira sort of an edge there at the beginning, and then having them come back. So I thought the match was really interesting and sort of highlighting each guy at moments and things like that. And everybody really had wicked moments of their own and moves in the match. So I thought it was really well done overall.
Yeah, it's definitely a great match. A lot of high-flying action kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's good to see Lio Rush comes back from that injury. He's like all bloodied. And he finally gets that hot tag. And then he's coming in. He's like zinging with like his kicks flying in and smoking people. Getting his revenge.
Yeah, it's so interesting watching him. He's so fast doing the misdirects and the kicks that he does swinging off the mat. And just so many things that he does is really interesting. And I think I just thought overall it was a really solid match, and I really liked Francisco Akira's ability and what he's been developing nicely along. I don't know how, he's younger than Yo, I think, but overall, I think he's got a really good upside, and I think, it was really good to see how that match turned out and kick off the card really, really well.
Yeah, that finish kind of surprised me there, but I'm not gonna spoil it for you guys. So you guys gotta check it out yourselves.
Well, that's what I like about New Japan is sometimes they have finishes that come out of nowhere, and it's really surprising. So it always keeps you on the edge of the seat when the finish comes. Then we move on to the next tag match for another pair of titles: Hiroki Goto, Yoshihashi versus FTR, which was a pretty solid match overall. I thought the Yoshihashi and Hiroki Goto had the better of the moments. I was more excited to see what they were doing. Cash definitely has more of the moments for FTR. He definitely did some good stuff in that match as well.
Yeah, Cash, he did two things that I normally don't see him. He did a dive. I'm like, oh man, this guy did a dive. And the guy dragon suplex. I'm like, I don't see this guy do dragon suplex. So it's kind of cool to see him to do a little bit more, in the big matches kind of thing.
And Dax, he never pulls out anything. That's why we don't really talk about them too much, because we feel like their matches can be repetitive. But overall, I thought it was good to, Yoshihashi, Hiroki Goto. I think they did pretty well in the match overall, and it was a decent match.
And before the finish, you see like Yoshihashi, he boots Dax so hard, as Taz would say, you see the spit, or you see the teeth flying as well. So oh man, you got him good at that one.
Now we're moving on to the brand new TV title for New Japan. We got Zack Sabre Jr., the technical mastermind, and Ren Narita. I thought this was a pretty good match. I knew what to sort of expect, as it wasn't going to be like high flying or anything but you're gonna get a lot of technical stuff. There was so many pins and non-stop pins, striking, submission attempts. They were the transitions were just back and forth so much, and I really thought that showcased Ren Narita, who's a fairly young up and comer. So they really showcased him, I thought, against Zack Sabre Jr. in this match, which I think was very solid overall. Another classic Zack Sabre Jr. type of performance, and just really good transitions. It really was a pretty high-paced match for the submissions and the grappling and things like that within it, though.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see Zack Sabre Jr., He's always grabbing a limb. He's
he's grabbing something.
Yeah, out of nowhere, he's grabbing a limb. He's bending your fingers. Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's always like doing something. You're grabbing his leg, he's grabbing something else. He's always transitioning to something. And I really feel like his ability, New Japan puts guys up against him to sort of see if they're on that like ground-based grappling submission, level yet, right? So I thought that was a bit of a showcase for Ren Narita, and I really liked the sneaky pin at the end of it. But we're trying not to spoil too much. But there was a nice, sneaky pin at the end. I think where I'm leaning with this. He's always doing sneaky pins and does that a lot. He doesn't even have a finisher, does he? But anyways. That was a really cool match. I thought it was really fun, and right there, smack dab in the middle of the card. Oh, you had something else to say about that match?
Yeah, and these guys are like really hard dudes. Like, if you don't watch New Japan, you'll be surprised, because like I was like looking at the match, and I was like, man, like, why are these guys like booting each other? And then it's like, oh, your turn to boot me. Oh, no, your turn to boot me. I was like, whoa, man, these guys like, trying to see who is the toughest one of the bunch kind of thing.
That's what they do in New Japan. That's why I think people are so amazed by Bryan Danielson, because they think his style is fresh, even though everything he does, everybody does as in New Japan. And it's basically a base that they start off, the striking, the grappling. So that's kind of probably why we're not very impressed with Bryan Danielson. Then we're moving on to like a cool match. It was a bit of like the old guard changing to the new guard between guys in the match. We got the Japan La Faction Ingobernables, that you seem to love so much. You got the leader Tatsuya Naito, Bushi, and Sennedra, the one of the Pac Masters that I can sort of do, versus Shota Umino, Keiji Muto. I believe that was his last match. Old dude, and we got Tanahashi. They always mix the names. There's two Takahashis, but the legend Tanahashi. Yeah, so overall, this was kind of a cool change in the guard sort of match, a bit of a mixture. I thought personally that this was a bit of a Shota Umino showcase, because like all the other guys were more seasoned vets. You had the retiring guy, older dudes, but Shota Umino was like the young guy. It's sort of going to be like the new blood, and sort of actually similar to Tanahashi, I felt, with the build of his similar style. Even the hair is very similar. So
I really like the entrances. Like the first one, they all have these like cool and wicked masks, like these bowls or water or whatever.
Yeah, I really like Naito's mask. It was really evil looking.
Yeah, like, that's pretty sweet. And then it's funny, at one point where like see the old man, he's like climbing up to the top, he's gonna do some big moonsault. And the guy's like,
oh yeah,
don't do it. He's like, oh no, I want to see the moonsault. Why did you stop him?
He's like, you're gonna land on your head, and then he gets beat up afterwards because it's too much time. He's like, what do you do? You got me killed, beat up, you damn you Tanahashi. Yeah, so that was a pretty good, decent match right there, stuck in the middle, decent ideas and storylines. But now we're going off to, I think I'm going to say this is my second favorite match on the card. I felt Taiji Ishimori defending his title versus Hiromu Takahashi, one of the Takahashis, El Desperado, and Master Wato, who I've become really enjoying of the last few months seeing him. This was a really great match. I thought, this, like Taiji Ishimori said, there should have been 3 main events, and this should have been another one of them, and people were going to see how good they were. There was some really nasty, intense moments on the ramps. Everyone was getting beat up on the ramp, right? All the hard landings on those little LED lights was pretty nasty. There was the 4-way submission moment, not 4 between all guys, but 2 guys were trying to submit the other guys, and the ref was like, who's going to tap? Who's going to tap? And he's like, check him. Hiromu was like, check him, I think he's out. He kept like calling that. So there was some really fun, unique, good moments in the matches that were, like a bit of a novel. This match was. It sort of like separated into chapters really nicely.
And I like in that submission where you have like that 3 or 4-way move where the one guy power bombs them onto the other 2 guys. So you just have like 3 guys at once.
He's like breaking his back. That was pretty nasty landing.
I like the Takahashi's outfit. He looks like something on like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He's like, what is this? He's got eyeballs everywhere. He's got tentacles.
Oh yeah.
Like, what is this?
Yeah. That was now I remember. Yeah, that was kind of funky looking. That outfit from Takahashi.
Oh, it's like you said. I like how Bone Soldier. He's like really smart. He's like taking a breather outside, and then like and then they all come out. And he like whoops them one by one. And he's like he like dodges one guy's drop kick, and then the guy gets smoked. I'm like, and then walks in the ring as a victor while everybody's like all dead outside.
Yeah, he had some really impressive moments in the match. Really awesome work between him and Master Wato because they have history together. I thought their work in that match was really awesome. Really, high paced, great energy match. But personally, I think even though, see, this might be a bit of a spoiler, but I'm not going to tell you who won. But Master Wato, even though he didn't win, so that's sort of the spoiler, his stock still rose in my opinion. I thought he had a really good showcase, and I think he's going to be. I love that crucifix. Well, like it's not just the normal crucifix or whatever. He just lifts the guy. Like he has some sweet moves. I think he's really going to continue to elevate his stock.
Yeah, I think that's the first time I saw it. I'm like, oh, that crucifix ball or whatever. That's really cool.
You were thinking he was the JoJo. You're like, who's this JoJo from Bizarre Adventures?
Well, this guy is no JoJo. And then I don't know if you saw it. Like he like. Wasn't it like a normal German, but it was like a super high one. They like drops him. I was like, holy, I like that.
Yeah, it's like what we said is like, your kicks, your punches, your submissions, your clotheslines. Everybody does these things. So what is going to be your little twist? Like AR Fox's corkscrew brainbuster, right? It's just those little things that sort of can catch people's eyes and get their attention, being like remembering Master Wato because of these moves, right? It turns a German into that. So it's just things like that you got to do. It's just like being in music. There's these little things that got to make yourself stand out from everybody else.
And my last point was for Bone Soldier. I thought it was really cool. He leaves the guy hanging up to dry, and the baseball slides out of the ring, grabs him, and the Germans him. I'm like, that's really creative. I like that.
Exactly. It's just these things to make yourself stand out. Now we're on to the first of the two main events. I think the match of the year, maybe one of my favorite matches of all time. I think Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay outdid Kenny versus Okada, in my opinion. I think this was fantastic. Just the way the whole thing was laid out. A lot like a novel. It was sort of had its chapters. Everything was building. You could feel so much. They were talking to each other. There's just so much emotion in that. And right off the bat, though, the entrances were exhilarating. They set the tone. The commentary, I thought, did a great job as they were coming out, sort of diving into the rivalry in each wrestler. I thought the commentary between Kevin Kelly and Don Callis was really good. They sort of set things up for each other and were sort of arguing back and forth and adding to the match really, really well. I thought it was just a really great story overall. They made it feel real. I remember feeling like this felt like Rocky. This didn't feel like a wrestling match. This felt like, a Rocky movie where like people started cheering for the other person. This felt like an MMA match. Right from the promos, they felt real, and the pre-conference the night before, a couple days before. But anyways, the match I felt was fast, hard hitting. Ospreay selling pain was really intense. The absolute vicious table work that was done on there, the vicious table stomp, the table suplex, the suplex that Will Ospreay gave Kenny onto the table, which I think that's where he got the swollen eye from, because he lands and he's like, ow, and then you see him like grab his eye really fast, like something maybe popped up and hit him. It was hard to tell exactly, but I definitely saw him react after that.
Yeah, for sure. This was like my favorite match of the card for sure. Yeah. And then like with the entrances, like I felt like from the entrances alone, you knew this match was gonna be wicked. Like the big TVs, the lighting, the assassin is back. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be good.
Well, you're hoping it lives up to the entrance hype.
And then it's like barbaric. It's like, man, how many times are you guys gonna get dropped on their heads, literally trying to kill each other, smashing his head through the table. Yeah, the rivalry built up so much, over social media, and then they had some matches in AEW, and then you come over, do this match, and it was just so hard hitting. There was just so much animosity. That's what I mean. It felt real. Like you said, Ospreay's head getting jammed through there. Kenny sticking his face in there, doing the Jack Torrance to Jack Nicholson from The Shining. Here's Kenny. Like there was just so many memorable moments that weren't even just like moves or high spots and stuff like that. Just them interacting with each other. The way Kenny was treating him, beating him down, and things like that. There was just so much, awesome stuff about the match that really got me. I was glued to it the whole time, for over 30 minutes. And then you had like
you know, not just the insane, or there was insane moments, but like the insane DDT that really set the tone for the rest of the match. About, I don't know, about quarter way through, off the turnbuckle that busted Ospreay open really brutally. The Sky Twister press, or the Phoenix Splash, or whatever it was, from Will Ospreay to the outside was huge on the Kenny. Like,
I thought that was crazy, because like you see like Kenny kind of like trying to move the table out of the way, but then he puts him in like really bad spot, because like when he lands, like you see his head like hit the back of the table, like on the steel portion of it, and then like you just see him in the back of his head.
Yeah.
Like, oh my noggin.
Yeah, like there was just so much in this match. Kenny's eye swelling, you know, that who knows how much that affected things, but he went through it. So that could have affected just overall like things that he could see in the match, or things that he could see coming from Ospreay's. Like, you know, you're trying to move out of the way from a kick to sell it, right? But instead you get like booted in the face, because usually on a super kick, when they come at the same time, you're kind of going back. So maybe, you know, that could throw off your depth perception. You get booted in the face for real or something. And one really big moment that I actually thought was really dangerous and terrifying, that, you know, I noticed, was that avalanche German suplex off the turnbuckle. I was like, yeah, how do you not, you know, kill somebody doing that fucking move? Like, there's just so many memorable moments to this match. And I really thought, like, you know, one thing that Kenny did, since they're essentially sort of both heels, you know, going into it, is that people started chanting for Ospreay. So I thought like this sort of swung the pendulum almost to making like Ospreay a face and United Empire like more popular. And I think that's really what, there was a lot achieved in this match for both guys. And I just thought it was absolutely spectacular. Probably one of my top 3-5 matches of all time, I think.
I like the emotions that they're going through the fighters as they're like fighting, kind of thing. Like you see like the stomp from like Kenny to Ospreay, and then like after that you see like Ospreay, he's getting pissed off. He's like, how dare you do that? You know, he's like, you know, like really hard. He's like throwing his head against the cage.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotion and just the atmosphere of it. You could feel them like doing Ospreay's kick to the head that he holds you. That's what I mean, is like this was one of those rare matches that felt like this was like a Rocky movie or something, or even real. Like, it felt like the way they set it all up, that this was more real than some of these MMA fights we see in the UFC, right? Like, that's transitioning something. That's something we feel, I think, is very rare in wrestling.
Yeah, and then like Ospreay kind of reminds me of those movie stunt actors kind of thing. Like the stuff he does, like when he like about to do like a German on top, like lands on his feet, and then there's like a flipping corkscrew kick. I'm like, what the heck? You don't see this.
His athleticism is out of this world. Then we move on to the main event, which might have been heavily overshadowed by the previous match. We got Jay White versus Kazuchika Okada. This was a really good match. I thought that Jay White and Okada had a really good storytelling in this match. Another one of those ones that really came to life for me. The rivalry and how like intense it was between them. A lot of emotions. Heavy impact moves. These guys, I thought, like, we're just going a little extra on the intensity, you know, hitting each other harder and harder. But I think that was an idea to sort of set the tone for the animosity between the two guys. I really felt like overall, like, the match was long and hard hitting, so it was very battle of attrition. These guys had to have cardio going into this match, durability, because I think they hit each other pretty solidly and were taking a lot out of one another. And just, I thought it seemed like the way Jay White was doing things and talking in the match, that he was almost becoming like this really sinister villain, like a real life villain in this match. Like I think you sort of pointed out that you're going to mention some things that you thought about his villainous, you know, developing throughout the match and just becoming like a crazy egomaniacal maniac.
Yeah, the first thing I noticed was he looked like he kind of touched the ref, and you see the ref going flying. Like, oh man, this guy's strong.
He's always killing Mr. Red Shoes.
Yeah, you see some big moves, like he did some like wicked suplex moves, and then you see Okada do like a twisting tombstone. I'm like, that like went up the Undertaker, and this guy kicks out. This guy's better than Undertaker. Yeah, another thing I liked about the storytelling is like how he's like yelling in the story. He's like, "You stupid coward!"
Jay White.
Jay White. He's like, "You can't take my blows," and then they start like, you know, exchanging blows, exchanging slaps, exchanging punches, and they're like going harder and harder. And then like I saw like one of the clotheslines from Okada. I was like, man, I felt it. Like, I felt the thud and the pain. And then you see Jay White like flip over. I was like, man, these guys are going at it hard. you feel the animosity, the hatred that they feel towards each
well,
other, right?
I think that's why, like, you know, we like New Japan or Lucha Underground. There was more to it than just a wrestling match and seeing the same guys perform the same moves. You know, they leveled it up in different ways. They try to get you involved, invested in it, just like if you're watching a movie or watching a play. You know it's not real, but you're at the same time you trying to believe that it's real, right? Like that's what you're trying to transition or translate to the viewers, right? And I think not a lot of wrestlers can do that. And I feel like these two main events that we just had, we saw that here, and I think that really elevates the stock of all four of these guys even more so. You know, even though they're already all way up there, and it didn't just have to be, you know, high flying, exciting, exhilarating matches and stuff. I think they showcased, you know, the different things they can do and have pace out a long match and make it exciting in many different facets.
Yeah, and then like Jay White kind of reminded me of like Joker kind of thing. He's
Okay.
this twisted villain kind of thing. Like he's like yelling things after the match. He's like two. Like I don't know talking about. He's like hitting twos, and then at the end, I don't want to spoil too much, but then you kind of see him. He's like Jay White. He's like crawling at his feet. And he's like slowly climbing up, you know, he's like playing mind games. And
crawling to Okada, yeah.
Yeah, Okada's like, what's going on here? What's his angle kind of thing, right?
Well, it's almost like Jay White and Kenny and some of these guys, like, it's not just a character that they do for that match or that rivalry. It seems like they're trying to do that almost like a long-running manga or like Spawn, right? It's like their character is always evolving, and like it's almost like the end of that match and Jay White acting that way is a transition into his next arc. Something like that. And I feel like that actually happened with Ospreay in that match, because when you watch New Year's Dash the next night, you see a slightly different Jay White and a different Will Ospreay. It's almost like they took what happened in that match, it fractured them mentally, and now they're transitioning into the next arc almost. So I don't know. I think that's the way I saw it. I thought it was really cool that they were able to do that. Maybe it's because we read comics and manga, so we can sort of get a sense of, you know, this thing from their characters, and I just think it really adds to them as wrestlers. It's not just the moves in the ring, but it's these performances. I thought, you know, really cool stuff. I thought, especially seeing New Year's Dash the next night and seeing how the individuals sort of changed.
It's like they leave us on a cliffhanger, you know?
Yeah,
we're waiting to see what the aftermath. We're curious what's going to happen next in the storyline.
That's all what it's about, is getting the people invested and seeing what's next. It's not like, oh, this is a guy in underwear and he just has a match 20 times against the same guy or something, and nothing ever changes. He's just going woo all the time and throwing tantrums in the ring or something, like doing the same promos. I think like this is another level in my opinion. So we hope you guys enjoyed our thoughts on this. We really dove into it. I really enjoyed this. If you have watched Wrestle Kingdom, tell us what you think. Hopefully we didn't spoil too much. We didn't want to spoil too much, but go check it out if you haven't. Some really awesome matches. And before we leave, I'm just going to do our little scale thing on what we thought the pay-per-view or Wrestle Kingdom 17 was. Was it good, great, awesome, amazing, spectacular, or fantastique? What did you have it rated at?
I'm going to have to say fantastic, man. There's some amazing matches in there that...
I wasn't sure. I thought like maybe you had it down a bit because of FTR and...
I didn't love every match, but then there were some that I really liked.
Yeah, I guess I can see where you're going. That's hard. Like, you know, we did that with AEW too.
Yeah,
I remember how I said there was, you know, the trios match really elevated the pay-per-view. That's why I moved it up. And to me, it's gonna have the reverse effect. I thought a couple of matches could have been a little better, and that pulled it down from fantastic for me. I don't know. I'm sort of torn. This might be like one of those albums. It's spectacular, or is it? I don't know. I'm sort of torn.
I was torn too, but then I'm like, yeah, I'll give it.
The Kenny Ospreay match, I think, really elevated it up. I'm sort of torn. Let's just say I'm sort of on Spectacular Fantastique, and it might change, just like a great album. Who knows? But he's got his in there. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed our video. Like, comment, subscribe, you know, all that type of shit. And if you don't, move along, you know, and go next door. Anyways, until next time, folks, with some heavy wrestling.